Hello everyone. For this second lecture in the unit on ecosystem vitality, we'll focus on water quality. The term water quality refers to the chemical, physical, and biological characteristics of water, and the question of whether water quality is good or bad depends on the intended use of the water and quality criteria related to that use. The main uses are, of course, in our homes, including drinking water, water for agriculture, for industry, etc. But water for aquatic life, for ecosystems, is also a recognized use in water management. So with our focus on freshwater health, we'll consider water quality from the point of view of ecosystems and the chemical, physical, and biological characteristics needed to keep them healthy. We'll begin by looking at the natural variability of water quality in freshwater systems, what processes control it, and how organisms are adapted to the natural ranges of water quality parameters. Next, we'll briefly review how human activities alter natural water quality, and how water quality is assessed and monitored. And we'll end by examining two of the most widely used indexes for evaluating and reporting water quality conditions. This is an aerial view of the central Brazilian Amazon, where the Solimões and Negro rivers converge to create the Amazon River. Note how different these tributaries are. The Solimões is mocha-colored, laden with sediments, and also rich in nutrients, while the Negro contains almost no suspended sediments and is poor in nutrients. Its dark color is due to organic matter dissolved in its water, giving it the color of a strong cup of tea. These two rivers have profoundly different water quality, but the quality of each is natural and reflects characteristics of their basins. The Solimões originates on the steep slopes of the Andes and carries dissolved and suspended minerals eroded from that active mountain range, while the Negro flows from the much older, more low-lying, and already heavily eroded Guiana Shield. The aquatic ecology of these two rivers is also vastly different as a consequence of their differing water quality. Even the human history is different along the two rivers. The nutrient-rich fertile floodplains of the Solimões supported the development of large agricultural societies, while the Negro limited human populations largely to fishing, hunting, and gathering. Natural waters contain a wide range of substances, including dissolved minerals and salts and trace metals, all of which are influenced mainly by the geology of river basins. There are dissolved plant nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, whose natural levels are influenced mainly by processes of plant uptake and decomposition. A range of dissolved gases are produced and consumed in natural waters through biological processes, which are strongly influenced by levels of particulate and dissolved organic matter in the system. There's of course particulate mineral matter whose levels are dependent on erosion of the surrounding basin and the river's capacity to transport sediment. And finally, we generally include microscopic organisms like algae and bacteria as components of water quality because of their ubiquitous presence and strong influences on the macroscopic organisms inhabiting natural water bodies. All of these common substances vary naturally in their composition. And native species inhabiting aquatic ecosystems will be adapted to the range of natural variability in water quality. Salinity, or total dissolved solids, is a parameter representing the sum of all substances, organic and inorganic, dissolved in water. Salinity varies by a factor of greater than 35 between freshwater and seawater environments, and biota are adapted to live across the entire natural range of variability. Some specially adapted species can even move between the systems, either migrating from freshwater to seawater to spawn, or vice versa. Oxygen concentrations also vary greatly in natural waters. They may drop to 0 milligrams per liter in warm, stagnant water environments with abundant organic matter, and may exceed 14 milligrams per liter in cold, well-aerated stream and river environments. Most fish species are happiest when oxygen levels are above 5 milligrams per liter, but some are able to tolerate lower levels and some prefer high concentrations. It's important that fish in different environments can tolerate variations in oxygen because these variations happen naturally over the course of the year as water temperatures change, and even over the course of a 24-hour period as concentrations rise with photosynthesis during the daytime hours and decline overnight. Now, we could continue to look at the natural variability in levels of different substances in water bodies, but the main message would remain the same. Native biota are adapted to those natural levels and able to tolerate variations in natural water quality. So from a freshwater health perspective, a system is healthy as long as water quality parameters are within natural ranges. Freshwater health begins to decline when concentrations of water quality parameters are pushed beyond natural ranges. In most cases, pollution related to human activities results in unnaturally high concentrations of water quality parameters because we tend to concentrate organic and inorganic chemical substances in our domestic, industrial, and agricultural practices, or accelerate natural processes such as erosion. Runoff of precipitation falling on our cities and agricultural fields and pastures washes higher loads of substances into water bodies, and we of course discharge substances directly in our wastewater. A large part of water pollution influences the concentrations of substances that occur naturally. For example, discharge of saline water increases dissolved minerals and salts, as does over-abstraction of water from coastal rivers and aquifers, which causes seawater intrusion. Toxic trace metals are common in industrial discharges and runoff from mining sites. Fertilizers used in agriculture wash into water bodies, elevating nutrient levels and sometimes causing toxic algal blooms, which elevate BOD, biochemical oxygen demand, and may lead to hypoxic or anoxic conditions. Excess organic matter discharges in untreated sewage, runoff from animal yards, and some industries also alter nutrient cycles and may lead to dangerously low oxygen levels. Poor land management will accelerate erosion processes, causing potentially harmful sediment loads. And the untreated sewage discharge mentioned previously may also increase microbial concentrations, possibly including pathogenic or disease-causing microbes like Giardia and schistosomiasis. Aquatic ecosystems will have some natural resilience to extremes in the natural contaminants I've mentioned so far, but synthetic compounds are also common contaminants. Principal among these are pesticides, which are engineered to kill or disrupt the life cycles of biota. There are thousands of different types of pesticides targeting different biota and ranging in toxicity and biodegradability. They enter freshwater systems primarily in agricultural runoff. Pharmaceuticals for humans and domesticated animals and a wide range of personal care products are also filled with synthetic chemicals engineered for various purposes. They enter freshwater systems mainly in sewage or runoff from animal yards. For most of these, the effects on aquatic biota are unknown, especially when they're mixed together in a dilute chemical cocktail that freshwater biota are exposed to for long periods. Proper management of water quality includes setting criteria or standards based on the intended or designated use of the water body. Drinking water generally has the highest standards, but standards are also set when the objective of water quality management is the protection of freshwater ecosystem health. Here's an example of guidelines set in South Africa for 25 constituents in relation to aquatic ecosystems. Criteria for dissolved oxygen are shown here. Note that the criteria are expressed as a target water quality range, and in addition to a concentration target range, there's also information about condition and application. The target water quality range is set for a concentration of 80 to 120% of saturation, and this should apply to the time of day when oxygen levels are lowest. If achieved, this criterion should protect all life stages of most native South African aquatic biota. Recognizing that most aquatic biota will not be able to survive extended periods of low oxygen levels, minimum allowable values are also set at greater than 60% saturation as a 7-day mean and greater than 40% saturation for a 1-day minimum. Criteria are also set for mercury and for lead. Note the lead criteria vary depending on the hardness of the water, which is related to levels of calcium and magnesium. For inorganic nitrogen, which is a plant nutrient, note that no specific concentration target is set. Rather, the target water quality range is to maintain nitrogen concentrations within 15% of the natural value. Consideration is also given to not increasing the trophic level of the water body, which may lead to the harmful algal blooms mentioned previously. Once standards have been established, it's necessary to implement programs to monitor water quality conditions. This image presents the extensive network of sites monitored for water quality by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. In the photo, you see scientists collecting and examining samples of insects, which may also be used as indicators of water quality. On the bottom right is a snapshot of the Commission's database, which is essential for storing data and enabling analysis of trends over time. Closely linked to water quality monitoring is the reporting of results to relevant authorities and stakeholders. Here's an example of the annual water quality report produced by the City of Charlottesville in North Carolina. Various categories of contaminants are listed with information about standards, results, numbers of violations, if any, and identification of typical sources. A lot of information is condensed down to one page, but it's still a lot to take in. And here's an example of reporting trends in water quality over multiple years and under different flow conditions. Analysis and reporting of trends is especially informative, as they reflect the effectiveness of pollution control measures and reveal relationships between water quality and other influencing variables. But trend data such as these are even more challenging for many stakeholders to understand. We also don't have time to delve into the details now, but have a look at the original paper if you'd like to know more. Given the complexity of water quality monitoring data and the challenges of communicating the main results and messages effectively, authorities have developed indexes that synthesize multiple variables into a single graded value of water quality status. I'd like to conclude this lecture by looking at two of the most commonly used water quality indexes. Let's begin with the Canadian Water Quality Index, which was originally developed in 2001 by the Canadian Council of Ministers of the Environment. Resources related to this index can be found at the link on this slide. The Canadian Water Quality Index is calculated using a spreadsheet-based tool available freely for download. It enables the user to upload a file containing a time series of water quality parameters, judged by the user to be of relevance to the water body being evaluated. For the same parameters, the user indicates the target water quality criteria, or standards for each designated use. Based on the criteria entered and measured parameter values, the tool calculates the proportion of monitoring samples that failed to meet water quality criteria, the frequency of failures, and the degree to which the measured values deviated from the criteria. These measures of the scope, frequency, and amplitude of failed variables are then summed and form the basis for the final calculation of the Canadian Water Quality Index. Final values are reported on a scale of 0 to 100, with ranges set for results ranging from poor to excellent. Overall results are presented, as well as results for each designated use of water for the water body. Note that in this example, results for designated uses of drinking, recreation, irrigation, and livestock are quite good, while the result for aquatic life is poor, signaling the need for management interventions. Another widely used index is the National Sanitation Foundation Water Quality Index, developed nearly 30 years earlier than the Canadian Water Quality Index. In contrast to the Canadian index that is based on established water quality criteria and allows users to select parameters judged relevant to the water body under consideration, the NSF Water Quality Index uses a fixed set of 9 parameters judged by an expert group of water quality specialists to be most relevant for water bodies in general. Furthermore, the experts ranked the relative importance of the parameters, resulting in terms weighting their influence, with total solids as the highest weighted parameter and turbidity as the lowest. For each parameter, a rating curve is also constructed, relating the value of the parameter to the level of quality. In this example, for dissolved oxygen, the highest quality value is at 100% oxygen saturation. The established rating curves for each parameter are also based on expert opinion. Finally, the quality scores for each parameter are multiplied by the associated weighting factor and summed to arrive at a final water quality index value. This value is reported on a scale of 0 to 100, divided into 5 quality ranges, from very bad to excellent. That brings us to the conclusion of this lecture. We've learned that freshwater quality varies naturally in space and time, and in relation to geology, soils, climate, topographic position, physical characteristics of the water body, and biological community. And freshwater organisms are adapted to natural ranges of water quality variability. Human actions alter water quality conditions and cause harmful effects when the concentration of water quality constituents exceeds natural ranges of variability, or when synthetic compounds are released to natural waters. Water quality criteria or standards are established to identify harmful thresholds and guide water quality management programs. Monitoring programs are designed to verify that water quality criteria and resource management objectives are met. And finally, water quality indexes are helpful for assessing and communicating the water quality status of water bodies. Thank you again for your attention. Please rewind and replay any parts of the lecture that were not clear to you. And when you're ready, proceed to the hands-on activity for this topic. That's the end of this lecture.